Yeah, sometimes.
Trying to always keep that in mind. Psychological counselor.
Yes.
Like the fireplaces, the video games. I'm sure that kids, I'm sort of jealous that I didn't go to school, but I should do this day. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Our office is very
Yeah. Yeah. Let's try this. This is the only one I can do. Yeah, exactly. That's what we get a lot of it. You guys occasionally get some of that. We're gonna do it every day, just like that. So we just kind of right over there, I guess. Yeah. Just like oh yeah, I got one of those tells me that stuff too. I'm like, shut up, stop it. Yeah. Yeah. Guys, do some laps.
Mom even called me one day and I said, and she was like, can you pick that piano? So one day he came in and said, because he needed vaccination records, the shot records. Well, he didn't have, he wasn't vaccinated. So he needed to sign and sign everything. He goes, can I sign from you out on the list? He just talked long about that, but fix it where they can't see my grades. I said, no, we can't do that. So yesterday he's in with mom. So he was 3 days late. He was late after 3 o'clock. So two days left the road. I told him to October. He got the look on the store. Dad's paying for college. Had to sell war bonds. So it's in the process of getting that money from the bank. I'm like, you have to register by Friday or you'll have to go through the deal. So I got mom and sister and him and all the teacher day. And I just turned on him and I said, he's starting to make this excuse. I turned him and I said, Sean, you know that this is hot too. I said, so now this is a real life adult when you need to learn because it's going to domino effect because you chose to communicate right here. You were paying for your and mom was sitting right there in my same room. I was like, listen, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to tell him because he's not, I mean, bottom line, he didn't do what he should have done. He was trying to make all kinds of decisions. Like, you've known, because he couldn't say anything different. You've known since October, because I've been telling you so. Failed everything. I tell you what, I was wrong when he was paying for some of this stuff. They started making all kinds of decisions. What kind of part-time job he could do, what he wanted to do. If you tricked him, what he wanted to do, what he could do, what he, you know. In fact, mom, he had to go because his computer's locked in his room. And mom said, we talked about going to the army. And I had to bite my mouth, not to say, I think it would be awesome for him, because I think it would make him grow up. She said, he's my only son. Friendly face.
Hey guys, how are you doing? I was gonna zoom in, but then I It's just wanting to be
Well, I
right.
think it's gonna go to Zoom this afternoon.
Huh?
I said, I wonder how many.
Yeah.
Like it is today.
Well, there were a little hiccup, there were some hiccups with it this morning, so.
You still can't see the doctor.
Oh, you can.
Just the one people notice for a while, so we'll just try one day.
I'm sorry. Actually, I told Virgil, you just need to open the
I like the book.
Oh, good.
This is really a good thing. You know, to do because it's all
That way it's all.
things in there, just right there. Put yourself.
You know, I haven't pointed out, but the one class in the tutoring lab, and I need to show that because it is up to date. And it is something they can do.
And I'll do it when you.
When you want to talk about going through, we're meeting with them that first, I think that's where I was gonna do it.
Okay.
When you
So
ask the
right-
questions and then,
When you first start, or you wait until you get to the.
I had it like, I could do it when we talk to them about meeting them, because I need to bring them, to meet with them in the first 3 weeks. That's what we're seeing,
Yeah,
position.
okay, I'll do it then.
It'd be a great time to talk about research.
Citizens are to be reported.
There were only like 3 on there a while ago. But I'm not messing with it now, these got it up. Is Kaylee with you?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I have tablets.
But I'm gonna get out of my package. Jerry Scott's not here, is he?
No, I haven't seen.
Who is the math 008 point person?
The other one?
This is where we are next time. Ooh, you got like a. We always had that? PowerPoint slide?
It's
Yeah, it's the
not.
beginning of the,
Oh,
where it is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, you know what? Never mind. I thought it looked like a PowerPoint slide, not that it was the document.
Oh,
I
no.
was just looking at it. My bad. So thanks for making all that, because I just like.
Oh,
I'll
we
come
just
up
all contributed our stuff and we shuffled it all together,
with
so.
some- Yeah, thanks. I mean, this is really helpful. I need to make sure I grab one of those.
They're out.
Are they?
Yeah, I would like,
Yeah, we were hoping we would
Yeah.
get one too, and we don't have, you got one, I didn't pick one
Yeah,
up.
we've had good turnout.
Yeah.
So,
I figured someone gonna do
there are sessions that I would like to have sat in on today, so it's a little helpful.
yeah. 27.
Hey, you don't know, you don't have anything to do with the change, right?
I don't. Again, I'm hoping tomorrow stuff that's still broken will get up there.
Well,
I'm curious to see that, but better than that.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not.
You don't make those decisions, right?
Not with
Do you make it with some areas?
Do I what?
Make that with any of the areas?
I mean, with biology,
When I got to this problem, this girl comes in and goes, this problem is my advisor, she's no longer the understanding.
so either I will be, or if she's zoology,
Well, this one girl was an odd case. She had a financial, benefits appeals that you have to, and the advisor has to plan out what's her degree.
yeah.
She was just awarded a degree. She has an AS, but now she's going to do nursing.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
JC.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody had helped her with her degree, and all
Yeah,
I
I
did was,
helped her because her degree office came back.
and she's just trying to keep her 20%
Her
scholarship.
degree came back 3 hours short. And I just had to course because she had taken like 50301, which counted as the biology degree. We weren't smart. And so,
Yeah, that's fine.
and so I did that, but I could tell she was moving into something else.
She's going to nursing.
Yeah.
I think. Well, and she said,
So,
I called Mike before and I'm like, what's the story with her? And Mike said, she'll be okay. And I said, so I'm okay to just list all these and sign as her advisor? Because when I called over,
because yeah, I think
talked to Sarah.
Andrew Corliss should be her advisor, but I can tell she was moving to something else. I didn't know if she's been assigned to nursing.
She hasn't been, but I'll put her in the bachelor's for nursing because everything I need to check for the associate she had done in the bachelor's nursing, she had done nutrition, statistics, she's doing stats, right? She had done nutrition. No, well, yeah, because a lot of those things are already there too. I checked on, well, she's done the higher level anatomy. I'm assuming they take those in place of biology. So she's done those. All her cores were done. And so whoever had helped her schedule was done. I just had to list it, but it wasn't for the degree really because she's done the degree. But Mike said she'll be okay because 20% scholarship will go 8 semesters.
Yeah.
And then her federal grants would pick up 6 or 10 more, and she was going to be, so she was going to be okay to be covered.
Okay.
And so I just
But
went and
but
signed off on it rather than send her somewhere else.
I just, the audit came back, and I just fixed that. Didn't know what was going on after that. Ready to go?
You guys sound like
You get away from my spot.
we're gonna go ahead and get started. As soon as Hope finds her seat.
Come on, Hope.
I hope she does.
We hope she finds her seat. My name is Gay Walthall. I'm the interim director of the Student Success Center.
Hey, you got it right.
I did. Those are new words coming out of my mouth. And I'm gonna let them introduce, and then we're gonna have, I don't know if you guys have done this already or not, but we've had everyone we've gone into, we've asked for you guys to introduce yourselves because we sometimes see your names and we don't know your faces to go with it. And I'm sure the same is with us. You might see our names but not know our faces. So,
Well, like, you Chris first.
I'm Chris Kitzinger. I'm a student success coordinator.
I'm Susan Brock Smith, business.
that's been the best. You're just egging him on. That's the best reaction.
Don't laugh. Don't stop. I'll give reinforcement.
Susan could not be here because her husband is receiving a national award at the National No-Till Conference. And so we see Susan pass on kudos to her husband, Mike. Susan's not the only award winner in her family. And but I'm Kurt Kaufman. I'm the Dean of Science, Engineering, Mathematics, and Grand Poobah of Technology. So,
I'm Levi Clark. I'm the chair of Conservation Law Enforcement, and I teach law enforcement sometimes, and I advise law enforcement students as well.
Okay, and we're gonna, Mike, start with you.
Mike Birch, Electronics Department Professor. Dave Plowman, Associate Professor of Music.
Susie Jackson, chair of the Department of Music.
Okay, Jubin Chen, Chair of Engineering Department.
Bernie Schmidt, English.
Hope Osman, chair of psychology, sociology, social work.
Economics Department.
Molly Schwitz, mathematics.
Kaylee Gravelette, mathematics.
Steve Brothers, Mathematics.
Jeff Hume, Hospitality.
Jack Maxey, Mathematics at Jasper. Jonathan Leonard, Teacher Ed.
Jacob Berg, Director at the Center for Technology Innovation Manufacturing in Jasper.
Angie Allen, chair of business, IT, and public service at Jasper. Angie Valley, academic, new title. I'm the director for the Academic Center for Excellence.
That's Uber English.
The name of these are
Glad to have all of you. This particular session is on intrusive advising. We're going to hear lots of different things in this session.
I've got it
This
up
is the
here.
beginning page. It says, at the beginning, I'm like, Seriously, she can, this page after that.
Like 3/4 of the way through your book?
And she did say, she said, I don't know how to number them, because we all did our own handouts, and then she had to compile it all. And so she's like, I didn't know how to tell them without handwriting the numbers. And by the time she got them, it was like, let's get it to print, so. So it's that intrusive advising page that looks like this.
The handouts are great, by the way.
Oh, good. I think that's finally helpful. We know that, here's the thing, we're dealing with some of you that have advised a lot longer than us. And then we're dealing with some people that are brand new at advising. So we're trying to give tools that can kind of help maybe all of you. And then we get calls from you guys that have been advising a long time that just maybe you forget. And then, golly, we've only been open since 2014 and there have been changes, right? How many times has the pathway changed or the now new placement charts? And so we get those kind of calls too. And it helps that we're doing it every day. So if you ever have questions, don't hesitate to call our office. Mainly, we want to talk about kind of building a relationship. You know, intrusive advising will work if you kind of build a relationship with the student. Some people, like Levi, he gets to build relationships with his advisees through his classes, because he'll say that, he'll tell that in a few minutes. Us, we just see students that we don't have in classes, and so we're trying to build rapport outside of those classrooms. The important thing that I want you to learn is I think it makes a difference with retention if you build that relationship somehow with that student and help get them through and help guide them, but then also just be a place where they can go with questions. Remember what it felt like to be new on a college campus and not really knowing where you're supposed to go or what you're supposed to do. Those kind of things need to be available for them. Going from the very beginning, anytime we can take on an advisee that we see at the start BU and become their advisor, the more we have learned that tends to work well for our office. I know that doesn't always work for your particular area, but if you can work that out, that initial contact is huge. Oftentimes their parents are with them, parents who didn't go to college themselves and don't know how to direct them. They feel better if they've met this person that's going to help the student get through and help guide them. And then also the student knows where to go. You know, if you met with them in your office, now I don't know if all of you do start to use out of your office, so you typically advise. And math and science used to do it in a different area. Do they do it in their offices now?
No, well, primarily we've been doing it down in our tutoring center, so we're all together.
Okay. So, but you might want to tell them my office is on the third floor in this building or the second floor in this building or wherever you're located. But that initial meeting can make a difference, you know, with them. And to start out, just kind of building that relationship. The other thing I would encourage you to do is try to even, if you're not here for the start BU where they come, many of them at the beginning of October or right after midterms and say, I need to get advised. I don't know who my advisor is. I don't have a clue who they are or where to go. So we help them get that. If you can, as the advisor, make an initial contact with them in the first few weeks. How many of you been through the profile report with John and Jennifer?
Excuse me?
Okay, so you learn about week 3 when those tax reports start coming in. It's crucial, and we're getting the data to back that up. So, yeah, there you go. So one of the things we do in our initial meeting with our students, we try to meet with them every 4 weeks with all of our advisees. And one of the things I give them at that first one is the tutoring lab sheet and the student resource sheet. I'm sorry, this is for the business campus, I'm sorry. But you can take it as a template back if you want to send me a file and fix your desk. Y'all are always sitting in one place.
Yes, and I send that out to everybody.
Okay, well, this one, we've changed locations, we've changed times. This is up to date as of 12/38 on 1/9/19 today. I don't know if it'll still be good next week, but as of today, this is good. The locations are correct on both sides and the times are correct on both sides, okay? I went back and checked those things. And I copy it on front and back on really bright paper and give it to the students so that they know where to go to the help. It's available all over this campus and it's free to them. That's a great resource they need to know about and try to utilize. That's a great way to kind of segue into, hey, if you're having trouble, here's where you can go. But if you make that initial contact with them, that can, whether you email it, whether you text it to them, or we're going to talk about a program that you can use for that, or whether you meet with them individually, which is, if you have the time, but we all respect, Chris and I both have taught full loads, and we know that time is an issue for faculty members. But you can also give it to them if you see them in class and they're your class. Okay? I'll need something out of there. No, okay, second thing is to how to prepare for before an advising appointment, things to look over. And Chris is gonna go over, she's kind of made some checklists, especially with your new advisor, there's so many things to remember and look at. So she's made a checklist that she's gonna go through and talk with you about.
Okay, as Gay said, we're all strapped for time. So we try anything we can do before they come in to get things lined up is beneficial. So just threw some ideas here together of things that we try to do before we meet with the student. You want to review their information on self-serve banner and also degree works. Sometimes they don't jive. So you want to make sure you got the same information in both places. When you check that degree works page, make sure that you're refreshing and processing new to get the newest information that's available on the student.
So what I usually do with my students, and it's different than what student success is capable of doing, but how many of you are lucky, like me, where when you teach a class, it is your student? So I teach conservation law, and in that class, it's conservation students. How many people? Okay, so what we have access to is to something that they can't. And so next week when I'm covering my syllabi, I usually don't do much that first week. I cover my syllabi the first day, and then we go into a computer lab and we cover degree works. I do that for my freshmen, and then I do it again for my freshmen next week. So I assign an assignment, which is how do you access degree works? Give me step by step how you got it. How do you look up the classes, meaning center column, click on, get the CRN number, it gives you the times, right? And I break it down for them and say, at any given time, you're going to take 2 classes out of your core areas, maybe get that math and that English done, and then for your UCC, I'm your professor. I don't pick your UCC electives. You have to do that. And the reason why is because my first semester here, I had a student who took ceramics, I put him in ceramics, failed it, he always blamed me. So what I say is you pick those. But some of this is getting them to buy in that this is their degree, and I don't get to just pick your classes. This is what I should have said in the last class was, this is how I do it. By no means is my work for you, but this is just an example of what I view as intrusive advising, which is you carry some of this weight. Some of this you have to do.
Okay. If you do see, I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
I was going to just, something that Levi does really well is his department is they have created a culture where they're all doing that, and they also say, you're going to address your professors as yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. And, if you've ever had law enforcement major, you're sitting in your gen eds, you know that, right?
Yes,
you
yes.
say, Joe Smith, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. You're like, oh, it's a law enforcement.
Yeah.
You're so happy. But they've created a culture where they are all universally doing that. And so even if you don't necessarily see, let's say you have an intro to the major class, like an engineering 131 or something like that, where maybe you don't, not the same person teaches it all the time, but you could do that kind of thread that into that class that all your majors do take. That might be a way to make that work, even if it's not you're not the person doing it, but they're learning how to do degree works or something like that, where you take a day, create an assignment for them to do it that way.
We have them sign an SOP that tells them what we expect from their emails, what we expect for them out of degree works. So on the very first day of class, they know how to address us. We tell them how we're going to address them. But like I said, this is what works for us. You should adapt it. Get your own mileage out.
I have a question. For example, if you want to show the degree works to the student in the computer lab, okay, if I show on the screen, whose name you gonna put in?
No, you don't do that.
You're right. Okay,
Yeah.
the privacy stuff, but you just get that blank one. Okay.
I don't have a blank one. No, I basically have to walk around
Oh, you walk around,
and
not
address
sure.
it. If I can get some mileage out of drawing out of on the board. Hey, look at the top is your information. Does everyone see your
You
information?
can, or you can have a student, we've done it before where students volunteered, or like right now, I've got a daughter that's a student, so unbeknownst to her, but she kind of knows I pull hers up. And so that first semester, when you're first showing it, most of them don't have any grades unless they had transfer credit.
Yeah.
So
But I don't do that. I walk around.
you would have to have permission to do that for sure.
It takes me the first week to get through. It's a slow process, but it pays off in the end, which we might talk about later.
We do it with our students
by the first time we meet with them, we go over Blackboard, we look at, grades with them, we talk about the resources that are available. The next time I meet with them, we go through degree works, but we pull it up and look, their own individual degree works and start talking about it.
Okay. If you do happen to see a discrepancy between degree works and Banner, a major that's off, something like that, be sure to send those changes to the secretary of the college so that those things can be straightened out.
Many times when they fill out their application, they're planning to be a doctor and they check pre-med and then they come here and all of a sudden they're going to be long. When you see those kind of changes, it's like, okay, wait a minute. So that's what happens is it change, and they're 17, 18, when they fill out an application, things are going to change. So that's why sometimes that discrepancy happens where SSB might even say one major and degree works will say another major, and we need to get those to be the same. And that won't happen unless you communicate with records and let them know.
Yeah, another thing to tag on to that, on Start VU Day, we've seen that happen so many times. They walk in our office, oh, you're pre-physical therapy. Well, actually, I think it will be computer science. Oh, okay. And so, their parents are there, they're there. And if you just say, well, that's in the Summers building, I'll see you.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good day.
What does that communicate to that student? It doesn't communicate very much. And so something I do, and again, this is me, but because we get a lot of students say, they come here, I want to be a pre-med, and they go, oh, I think I want to be nursing. Telling them how to get to the office on the second floor of the health science building, so I will walk them over. I just walk them over and take them upstairs and up there and get them there. Or I've taken them to the business building, or I will do that. If you can't do that, I would ask that you at least walk them outside your building and point them to the landmark. Say, see that white water tower? That's where you're going. That building right there. Summers building is that you at least get them so they can see where they're heading. But anything you can do to help them get to where they need to go. Now, if they're wanting to go diesel technology, yeah, that's a little bit of a stretch. See this? This is on Google.
Get on this road.
That's a little different. But again, anything on those Start VUs, any connection you can make, even if they won't become your advisor, or if you're advising someone in your department, but they're going to have Jesse instead, walk into Jesse's office and show them, hey, Professor Cooper's going to be your advisor. Here's his office. So in the fall, you know where to go. Just things like that are really good things that connect our students and help them be more confident.
I would encourage you to think back to what it felt like when you were, we've all gone to college, what you felt like and how overwhelming it kind of is because there's so much that you don't know. And many of them, just like I was in this case, my parents didn't go to college. They don't really know what that's like. And so they couldn't really help direct me. They need somebody to kind of help direct them in that beginning, especially around the campus or just in where to go to get different resources. And you can be that kind of point person for them. And it's great PR. Like I said, if we can make a relationship with those parents, even the parents are going to feel better. I don't know how many of you have taken a kid off to college. I haven't done that yet. I've just sent one here, so she was pretty familiar. But I know that would be a very scary thing as a parent. It would feel good to see somebody that's going to say, hey, this person would want my kid out. That's PR for us. And remember, these are paying customers. So.
And I think we've all had that comment when parents leave and say, thank you, they're going to be okay. It does help. All right, you need to check placement scores, which you met with Michelle already? Yeah. So you've learned the new placement, all that. Okay. You want to check for transfer or dual credit. Be careful with that transfer credit. A lot of times students say, well, yeah, I took that at such and such college, but they haven't bothered to send the transcript, or in the case of dual credit, they didn't know they had to do that.
They think it comes with their high school transcript. And so you have to tell them if they took dual credit that it didn't come with their high school, and they have to get an official transcript sent from the college when they took it. Hopefully they know what college they took it. That's not always the case, but again, as a paying college mom, I don't want the kid to have to retake English 101 if they've already gotten credit somewhere. And again, parents will appreciate that if they took it somewhere and you say, hey, they need to have this transcript sent here so that they don't have to take this again if they passed it already.
And if their VU transcript now says they have undistributed credit in something, be very aware that doesn't mean it won't count. Okay, what that means is it just didn't fit precisely the classes we have here. So if they have 3 credits of math and distributed credit, what Ren Simmons said, basically said, well, that doesn't match one of our classes, but it is a 100 level math. It's college level. So if you have a degree that just needs a 100 level math, not a specific one, you send a course sub to me in this case, if it's math, asking for that to count for the requirement. The classic thing is with Ivy Tech. Ivy Tech, their science lab classes are 3 credits. And so your student does not have to take another 4 credit class. Here's what you do. You do a course sub for the 3 to count towards, if it's in biology or geoscience, like they have a 3 credit biology lab science, count it for all, do a course sub for Bio 100, then enroll them in Bio 100L. Bio 100L is designed for this situation where the co-requisite states, the co-requisite is either Bio 100 or a 3 credit science. We have to do an override just to put them in the lab, and you just call me. But that they just have to take 1 additional credit to meet that 4. So if they've transferred in a 3 credit science, whether it's lecture or two lecture and 1 lab, we'll count that for Bio 100 or Geos 100 or whatever 100 that is a chem, and then we will take Bio 100 lab to meet that 4th. Because Bio 100 lab is designed to not go along with lecture specifically for this reason. It is an intro to the process of science, is how we teach it. And so it's not like they aren't, if they aren't in the biology lecture, it doesn't matter. They're doing things that are designed independently. And so that's a good thing. Another thing is that they brought in 2 3 credit sciences. Do a course sub, and if at least one of them has a lab, do a course sub for the 2 of them to meet the 4. Because they have 6 hours of science. Yeah, we'll count that for the 4. Okay, so again, course subs, in those cases, if it says undistributed, you can probably, make it work where they aren't going to have to just retake another 3 hours or 4 hours.
So it's to automatically allow the system to allow to put just 1 8-hour lab.
Well, again, you'll have to get an override. So you'll have to do a course sub for the 3 hours to count and then call us and just put them in 100 labs. So then all they have to do is take 1 credit hour class, not another 4-hour lab science. And so it saves them a lot of time and money, and they just have to take that 1. And again, the 100 lab is designed that they don't have to, they could have had a 3-hour geoscience. This 1-hour lab is how science works.
So the system is not allowed that automatically.
No, you have to get an override for it, but we'll automatically make that work. I'll make it work. Or Renee, Wamikagna, the biology chair, can do it.
Typically, you have to tell if you don't want this, but typically I just email Kurt, Renee, and Sarah, the secretary, and see, and then when he can respond, he's usually quick to respond if he's in his office. I'll do this override and they'll end up taking care of it. And if you need help with the course subs, I've got examples of both of those that I've got tucked away about how to write and what to say, because I would, with Joan and Kurt, I would say, how do you say this? So if you need help with that, let me know, and I'll send you an electronic copy of those 2 science experiments.
Okay. Want to make sure that if the student is a 21st century scholar, you make note of that, or if they have other state aid. Have you had your financial 101 session yet? No? Okay, you'll get that next, so you'll learn more about that.
One thing I'll say about 21st century scholar
yes, go ahead, Levi.
The first few years I was here, my students always knew they were 21st century scholar. And the last couple of years, maybe this is just my experience, but I've had 2 or 3 that come in and have no idea they're 21st century scholar. So it's something I have to check or ask, and I'll usually get a maybe,
It's under their student, it's supposed to be. Yesterday, SSB was doing all kinds of fluky things, and Becky just said they decided to upgrade this week. So, but normally, student information will show in red 21st century scholar. So if you click on that student information, it'll tell you if they're 21st century scholar.
I have a question. Okay, I have an YZ, which is 21st century scholarship. And what's the requirement?
Justin will be here next
Yeah,
session.
next
He can
session.
tell you all about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Justin, who oversees that, will be here.
Yeah. Okay, I prepared 2 copies of the printable degree plan. One for the student that I give them when they leave my office. The other is for me to keep. I'm old school. I keep folders on my students. I have paperwork on my students. You can choose how you want to do it. If you'd rather do it electronically, that's fine. I just know, I think everybody has to find what works for them. But I do make sure we've got 2 copies, one for the student, one for me. And the last thing in the pre-advising is to make sure that all the prereqs have been met for the courses that you think you're going to put the student in. One thing we run into all the time working with university college students, they may come in math ready, but not English ready. So if they come in their English 008 and they look like they can go right into business math, but they can't because there's that prereq that's required. So those are just kind of fluky things you have to watch. I'm sure you have those in your own area where you've got something on the plan, but yet you know, oh, they've got to do this before they can do that. So just watch those type of things. All right, once you get the pre done and you actually meet with the students, the first thing I like to do is collect all the information I can. So another little thing I've made for you on the other side here. This is something a lot of us use in the Success Center. Take it or leave it. It's just kind of a concise place to put all the information for the student. Always check right away and find out how the student wants to communicate with you. Do they want to do it by phone? If so, make sure you got a phone number. I get a phone number anyway, whether they want me to call them or not, just so I have that contact. When I do that, I ask them, is your mailbox set up? Because how many times do we get messages, call me back, and you call, and you know, there's no mailbox available. So I always check that. I always make sure I have an email address. What we like to do is the Remind system. How many of you use Remind? Anybody?
Okay. If you look
Just
at
a few, okay.
the next page, it tells you how to set up the Remind. I'm going to switch off that.
Yeah.
How did you tell me to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he leave?
I think he's out.
He's back.
There. Hey, I did it.
Oh, you got it.
I'm
Okay.
actually impressed with those skills.
Woo! This is my actual Remind account. We love this tool. Now, I want to say up front, they don't see a cell phone number from you. So I don't give my cell phone out to them, my cell phone number. I do this all through remind.com is where I set it up. So on the computer, I almost always do it on the computer. Or it comes up as an email for me. If you put it out on your phone, you can have that on your phone. They're still not going to see a phone number for you. Okay, it's done. And what we do is we get their phone numbers and I'll create a class and put their name in and put the number in, and they join the class. So then we can send text messages to them. I can send it to the whole class. Hey, don't forget this is my UC class. Don't forget we're meeting at this time or elsewhere, a different place or different location. These are all my advisees, and you can see right now I have 2 messages. That means that they've sent me messages, personal messages, or I can send out reminders like we have to meet with the readmits. Academically disqualified students throughout the semester, so I'll have a class for them and say, hey, don't forget you're supposed to be getting your progress reports done this week. So it's a great tool. You can even schedule that. I can schedule that now for those announcements to go out for the readmit weeks for the whole semester. So you can go to the date you want them to get an announcement and send it out. It does limit your characters there, but not in the responses back and forth to them. It's a great tool to use, and it's free.
And Remind's also great for prospective students. So if you're recruiting and you have their phone number, you can send, because they won't check their email, but they will certainly see a text. And so it's a great, or just with your advisees or any other group that you're trying to communicate with.
These are incoming freshmen that I just saw last summer in Start VU. And I would just say, I'm going to put you in an incoming freshman thing, and I would just keep adding them. And then if you get home and have questions about placement testing or have questions about what you're supposed to do next, feel free to send me a text. And several of them did.
where do I go to do testing and which one do I need to take? And so different questions that I got asked.
So they are able to respond to.
They can, yeah, because they have to, it'll say you have been added to Ms. Wellfall's 1819 advisory list. And so that's where they would go and they can respond back, they can respond back a month later to that one text and say, hey, can you tell me what?
And they're using it a lot in high school, so
Right,
they're
they're
used to it.
Yeah. Any questions on your mind? Great tool, we can't recommend it enough.
It's free.
And it is free, yes, it is. All right, so you want to verify again that the student's major is correct. You've checked it on SSB, you've checked it on DegreeWorks. Now you need to check with that student, because if your students are like our students, they tend to change their majors. So it's always a good idea to make sure you're still advising them in the correct major.
The two questions that have come up at this point in some other classes are, what happens if I have a student who comes in, I schedule them, and then they go to another professor, and it's kind of like, mom said no, but dad might say yes, or vice versa, right? So it comes to me, I give them a schedule, they don't like that schedule, and they go to someone else. Has anyone ever had that happen? Well, my personal opinion, again, this mileage may vary, I say good for them. That's the student taking initiative in their degree, initiative in their life. So I usually don't have a problem with that, but it always comes with the idea that the advisor or the student success is great at this. They send us an email that says, hey, we changed the schedule. Or I met with Nick today and we changed the schedule. So that's my personal take on it. You might have a different take, but I usually think that's good for the student. The other one is, how many of you have ever had a student come to you and say, for instance, in conservation, you might have a student say, I want to take the diving course. They take a course that doesn't allow them to graduate. Anybody ever had that? Okay. I, again, will put them in the course, but I let them know, hey, this isn't going to help you graduate. This isn't going to get you towards that degree on time. I'm glad you found the course. I'll probably even kick them out and say, bring me the CRN, make sure it fits your schedule, and I'll put it right in there. Does that make sense? So I usually will just make a note of that in their degree.
Yeah. I want to highlight that last sentence he just kind of glazed over. Make a note on his degree worksheet that he was informed, because we had somebody in the morning say,
Okay.
if I got a student, and I put him in this level, levels of different
You're fine.
classes that didn't go to his major, and now he won't graduate on time, and dad's not happy with it. So, and I tell a student, if I'm going to do that, okay, we can do this, but I'm going to put a note on your degree worksheet that this could delay your graduation, and that this course will not fulfill a requirement for your degree. Just make a note.
They want us to be closer to the microphone, the Zoom people. The microphone's that snowball looking thing, that black
Okay.
Death Star.
I'm talking loud, but I'm talking loud on that side. So. Anyway, just make it, that's just a cover your behind situation, but you want to do that. And I don't hide that from the student. At that point, I say, you can choose to do that. Remember, they are paying customers. They can choose to take that class, but I'm gonna make a note that this is what you were told, so they can't come back 4 semesters later and say, they never told me I wouldn't graduate on time, but so it goes both ways, just so that we're real clear. This is what I'm putting in the
Is there
degree
a
worksheet.
specific form that they can fill out their information and the class they really want to take into their signature, so that way that can be documented?
Well, you can make that form, and that could be your thing.
Yeah, that's true. But you don't really, there's not a form that's required. If you put the note on the degree worksheet, it's going to stay there and date the time, who put it there, and what time, the day and the time it was put there. So you can say back here in fall of 2018, this is what you were told. So it's just a way to kind of cover. But you can definitely have them sign it if you make a form and have them sign it, and I would date it for sure.
Okay, where are we?
I think we're in asking
Okay.
questions.
Almost. Okay, one more thing. Once you have that student in classes, you're going to give them their copy of their degree plan. You keep your copy. I always mark my students' degree plan for them with the classes that I put them in, with the dates that they're doing, like, spring of 19. And I tell them, see, you've got a column here. You can put the grade. When you get your final grade, you can fill this in. This is yours to keep. You can keep track of, kind of like Levi's trying to teach his kids. You can keep track of this. You can have ownership of this. Now, how many of them keep that and look at that and do that? I don't know, but at least we're trying to get them to do that. So. All right, Gay.
Part of the advising, when you talk about intrusive advising, is to take the time to ask questions. I want to go back over when she hit that pre-checklist. Notice at no point did she say, go ahead and register them for all the classes before they come to see you. I mean, the goal is to have them give input and to take ownership and some investment in it, and for them to know they have some choices. If it's a first semester freshman, they should have some choices in the electives that they take, right? I mean, on those UCC classes. So give them those choices, because many of them don't know unless you tell them what some choices are. So you want to kind of go through that. The other thing for me is find out if they're a morning person or an afternoon person. I personally taught a math OTN class with students in their pajamas that didn't want to be there. And they made it very well known that they didn't want to be there. I just assumed them not be with me at 8 a.m.
Also work schedules.
Yes. That's a good point, because we're going to get to that. You've also got students that are working or either have families, and sometimes they'll say, I need to be done by this time, or I can't come into, or they're traveling from Illinois, so there's a time gap there, or from Evansville. And so those are all parts of what advising should be about when you're talking through what those options are for them, to kind of take all that into account.
The whole point is to make them successful. And if you are sticking a student in a class where, you know, if they're in an 8 o'clock class and they don't want to be, they're not going to be successful. And hopefully, if we take the time on the front end to teach them to be aware of those things, then when they get farther along and they start looking to develop their own schedule, then they'll kind of know, hey, no, I don't want to do those early classes, or, you know, math isn't really my thing. I probably need math 3 days a week instead of 2 days a week. You know, but we've got to kind of teach them in baby steps how to get there on their own, because they don't know. You know, this is all new to them. They don't know.
The ultimate goal is that, at least for me, the happiest time of my advising time of the year is when I have a student come in and hand me a sheet of paper with 5 CRNs. If you type it in, look at the career, yep, print it out, and have a good day. That's my frame up. That's the build up that I want. How do I do it? I have to do it in class, and that might not be the wise use, but that's how I do it. That's how I get to the point by that second year there where I'm on the machine.
Levi, what do you do when someone says, I only want Tuesday, Thursday class?
Yeah, thank you. That's usually what I say here. So I have students who come to me and say, oh, I work on Tuesday, Thursdays, or whatever. I can only be in class Monday, Wednesdays, or Tuesday, Thursdays. And I say, hey, that's great. I'm going to get you in your major program requirements. I'm going to get you in your math and English if they don't have it done. And then I say, but I'm going to kick you out and you bring me back CRNs in times that work to fit your schedule. So again, I'm putting some of the ownership on them. And it's not because I'm lazy. It's because they don't come to me. They're not going to have someone to come to the rest of their life, right? And say, hey, fix this for me. They need to take some ownership and say, well, what do I like more? I have a choice between art on Tuesday, Thursday, or economics on Tuesday, Thursday. What am I going to be more successful? Only they can answer that.
Just as, I mean, I'm hoping I'm not going to make anybody mad when I say this, but he can do that because he covered it in class. Please don't tell your advisee to go find their CRNs and not teach them anything about how to find it. Yeah. I mean, sometimes that happens, and we're like, oh, they don't know where to find it. So, I mean, if you're going to do that method, he can do that because he's done it. I mean, he's gone over that in class with them. They don't have a clue where to go in the beginning otherwise. So, just know that should go hand in hand. Don't try that method unless you're going to take the time in class and teach them, and that's got your advisee in.
So one time we had about 100 majors in our department. It was amazing how far away some of these students were driving to commute. There was one guy that was coming down from Indianapolis once or twice a week. And take classes on site B, we'll get back and live up there. And a lot of them will drive up from Evansville or Terre Haute, and they work up there. That's where they want to live. And that they use that Tuesday, Thursday, that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. How far away they're from you.
Right. And those are all factors you got to kind of have. You got to have that conversation with them before you can put them in classes for that very reason. Because sometimes there are factors that you need to know. And again, they're paying for it. So we need to make sure we're kind of working at what will work with them.
And I just want to highlight one more time, their freshman year, they get it twice. Their first semester and here next week. Syllabi, degree works. My office, they already had it once.
All right, thank you.
If you're not, I guess I'm saying, if you're not doing it in class, you need to take some time in your advising session to go over that with them. You know, that's the goal, because the goal is to get them, and to be very clear, you know, when we give them that degree plan, this is like your contract with the school. You need to take these courses and pass them. They see or higher, they usually want to say, or keep it 2.0, you want to make sure all those little guarantees are taken care of, 2.0 or higher, to have a degree awarded to you. Just because you're here 4 semesters doesn't mean we're going to give you a degree. And some of them think that. If they put in the time, why couldn't they get a degree? You have to take these classes and pass them to be able to have a degree awarded. Have we lost our little thing?
Yeah, excuse me, John.
Sorry.
I'm going to hop in front of you so I can see where we are. Right, you can follow along even though I can't show you right now.
We're having trouble, I think, trying to show things.
Yeah. Okay. Provide the student with their schedule. I give them 2 copies. Once they're done, I give them both copies. Some students like the grid, some students like the week at a glance. It's amazing the difference between the 2.
I don't know if we're in the way.
I
of the
don't know.
camera, so-
Well, right now the camera's just showing us.
Oh.
On screens. So what we could do is try to get it on there and put your thing on there.
Well, that's what we had.
And Mike
Then
Birch
he
is
said-
like apparently in
We lost it.
secret
It's better than
communication
our office.
with
It's
somebody.
better than our office.
Dean Hall.
Yeah.
Dean, does this work? But anyway, so.
You can text and let us know.
Because they don't need to look at me.
Always make sure your students know how to get on their MyVU account, those new students especially. We have a handout for students. If we don't have time to go through it with them, we do have a handout we can give them. If you need that, let us know and we can send you a copy of that as well. And always communicate with your student when the next advising session is going to be and how they can schedule appointments with you. So if you're going to email them or you want them to email you, or if you have a sign-up sheet or whatever the case is, let them know. Let them know that they can reach out to you as much as you reach out to them.
The ultimate goal being that, I just want to hit on it, the ultimate goal being for me, at least in my degree, is that this student takes some ownership. It's not just I'm going to go to Professor Clark and get my schedule, where it's a chore. Instead, it's something like, well, he wants me to do this. It's part of being in college, is getting this done, right? And that's the big step that some people I could see would say, well, it's easier for me. It's less time if I just hand him a schedule. Yeah, that might be true at first. It might be easier for you, but the ultimate goal being that they own it, they want to be a part of it, they can set their own schedule, they're learning more, they're getting more along with their education.
We're almost to the point where the screen doesn't matter. So.
Now they can't
But,
hear.
yeah.
One of them, you guys know, one of the, I mean, I've said many times, college is much more than about a book education. I mean, there's a lot of things that put in to learn, and I tell many students, a lot of this is about you learning to be your own self-advocate. And so, in the beginning, we want to teach them as much as we can, but again, our goal for all of us is for them to successfully complete a degree and learn to take ownership, because that's going to be a life skill that they had a student, and he's a UC student. I don't know if all of you know what University College is. We work with all the students that test in the English 008 and Math 008, okay? And he was a UC student who did not pass English 008. I changed his schedule, and all of a sudden he sent me a remind text and said, I don't think my English grade's right. I'm like, okay. So I had 2 this semester that one had a midterm grade that was wrong. This was an English grade that was wrong. And both times I've said, then you need to go ask the professor. I said, it's very easy for faculty. We do a drop-down menu and you can easily hit the wrong grade. So if you think your grade is something different, it is your right to ask the professor about it. Do it respectfully, but you need to go and ask that question if you don't think the grade is right. Well, come to find out he had a B, not a D. And in the meantime, I had taken him out of English 101, 079 and put him back in English 008. But after that, he had contacted the professor himself, who said, you're correct. It's the wrong grade. We got it switched. We got him switched back. And I sent him a text saying, good job for you for learning to be your advocate, to go after and ask that question when you didn't think the grade was right, and for checking your grades, because golly Moses, they don't check their grades. Most of the time they don't know where. So if you get an opportunity to show that, show it, because I'll say, when they come in, have you checked your midterm grades? No, I don't know where to find them. Well, and they go to Blackboard. That's what they learn to navigate Blackboard, and they think that's where they're gonna see their grades. Like, no, those aren't the grades that are going to the system. Let's go back and look at where you find your grades. So those are all things, don't assume that they know you. That's part of advising to try to tell them those things, so they learn, hopefully in that first semester.
So we wanted to end with a couple of things, just some examples of intrusive advising. One of the reasons I wanted to come into this panel when Susan Bake Off was when I still advise. And I see advising as a really important tool because a lot of our students come here with a lot of negative influences on their lives, where people tell them they aren't going to be successful, or how will you get a job in that? And they have all this negative support. You have the opportunity to speak life to them. That you are that person who can say, I believe you can get to this point. And sometimes that's what you do. Sometimes you believe enough in them that they achieve that dream. I had a student that start, with the old math, developmental math, math 00, whatever it was, 09, made it all the way through 016 into college algebra, and got her associates. And I was like the 1% that did that, but she did it. And I felt so proud of that. But then I had another student who, was a biology major. She took Bio 1 3 times, didn't pass it. And I finally said, look, I want you to go over to the Career Center and take one of their assessments. And she took their assessment. It came up culinary arts. And she went, this was several years ago, but she went to the culinary arts program and the lights came on, and she found it, that's another way to intrusively advise. But again, it's having belief that they can achieve a goal. Sometimes you have to redirect them to that goal. Another thing that I do, because I advise mainly zoology, marine biology students, and I get emails from different biology, like marine biology sites and things, and I will forward these emails to them. So like, hey, I just saw this cool video on sharks, and I will send it to them. Or hey, I just read this cool article on climate change or whatever. I call them my dream emails, because when they're sitting in chemistry going, dear God, what am I doing here? And they hopefully they get this email and go, sharks, that's what I want to do. That's why I'm doing this. And you get emails like that from your professional organizations or whatever. I see that's a really great way to help them when they're in the middle of the grind, to remind them, this is why I'm here. This is where I'm trying to go. And I feel like that's another way you can speak life to them continually, using Remind or just put together an email list. Again, that's a way to be intrusive to help them to meet their goal.
My example of intrusive advising was I had a student that came in English 008, Math 1 and 2022. Our goal was always to get them to their 100 level English and math, and then we passed them to their faculty advisor in their area, which I did with him. I was sitting with him for the first year. I passed him to his faculty advisor, but then I checked up on those. I just watched those students. So I did one check-in with him in the fall, and he was okay. So it's spring, because we're keeping data on all those students that we touched, and of course they're going to be looking at those things. So the second semester at midterm, he was graduating in May of this year, and last year. And in midterm, he had 3 Fs, 2 Ds, and a C. It's like, holy moly. So I texted him and said, I want to see you. Well, because we had a relationship, he came right in to me, and I was like, what's going on with you? What is happening? He really didn't know. He really couldn't give me any ideas of what was going on. So I was like, you need to go talk to every professor that you have, find out what you need to do to pass this class. You are supposed to graduate in May. Do we need to meet every 2 weeks? I'll be the first to say, we have the time to do that. I understand that would be awfully hard for faculty members to do. That's where we can help you, though. We don't mind helping you out. Why can't we work together to get students through? And this is the case where I felt like we were working together. He wasn't my advisee anymore. I met with him every 2 weeks, and the boy graduated. But it took it just took some prodding. That's what I was intrusive at that time. But it was like, come on, get your butt in gear. You're too close to the finish line to stop this now. And he did graduate. So those are times where we can kind of do that. And it was a relationship where it has started from the first semester he was here to the time he got through. And he trusted me to do what I asked him to do. So. think that's all we have. We're supposed to have time for questions.
We got like 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay? Any questions?
What I heard both of you just say is that so often it's just the student needs to know somebody believes. in them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how
Somebody's in
you
their corner.
prod or how you encourage, you know, just finding a way to do that.
And everybody kind of like Levi has a great rapport with his advisees because he has them in class. General studies, you might have them in English, you might not, and they can go all kinds of different paths. So if you're a general studies advisor, that's a whole different animal than what because they're all doing the same classes, and we understand that because we have them too. But you can still make a difference in believing, you know, they can do this. I've got a UC student right now that's in the practical nursing program, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna have to be at her penny this summer because I was with her from the very first day of UC, and she was a university college student. So I'm like rooting her all the way. They just sometimes need somebody to say, you can do this. Come on, you can do it.
And at least on this side of things, it's really difficult when, and I used the word annoying last class, and it's not right. I don't mean the student is annoying, but it's like, you can teach them about conservation law, you can teach them about criminal law, but they can't figure out their degree works, right? It's not because, it's because we're not teaching it. You know what I mean? That's what I was trying to say last time. I get better every time. Like, that's what I was trying to say last time. You have a student come in and say, well, where's your schedule out? Like, you aced a criminal law test and we can't figure out degree works. So,
but it is a different animal.
It is different.
Again, and remember when we were in college and you got the paper book and you could easily go through it. It's not that same. It is not as easy to navigate as it used to be. And
So we're at the end. One thing, you have one more session. You have a 10-minute break. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be sending out a link for you to do evaluation of all the sessions. And when you finish that link, you will receive certificates for the sessions that you've attended. So that's how that all works. So we don't do paper certificates anymore. You'll get electronic ones sent to you after submitting the survey and evaluating the sessions. And again, give us honest feedback on the whole day. You know, this was a new thing for us to really focus on advising, but I think it was very timely. So thank you.
or take the time to. I don't know if they're going to do it again on advising or not, but you know, if you think of things that wasn't covered, I mean, I'm sure that they can work that out with you, or you can go back over and do sessions.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I got that.
So you guys have had to deal with the camera stuff all day, right?
Yeah.
Did it ever go through? Did it ever go through? Did it say?
I don't know, I got a text saying they were still having trouble out there.
See, that you can't see the docu thing. And that hearing us.
This is the mic, and I was thinking it was on that.
So, all these people here are hearing you real well. People out there. It's and this thing, they keep trying to use the yellow, but that won't work online.
I know but there's nothing we can do because all we got is documents.
You need to have it on a jump drive and put it in the computer and put it up on the computer screen.
Yeah, but we didn't know that. I mean, all we did was check to make sure there was Elmo.
This is for future reference.
Yeah. Yeah, we found that out when we got in here. So now first.
Good time to
yeah.
figure it out.
I mean, we did call and make sure there was Elmo, but we didn't know that we had problems.
Right.
I'm not. I did have to show them all the time, guys. And your sessions, we would like to sit in, you know.
Can I get rid of that?
Yeah. All right.